Pierce told me when I came in they were going to present me with a wee something. And I said, I have a wee something already, but I'm trying to keep it quiet. I'd like to say thanks very much to the committee and to the Board of Armagh in general. It has really changed my life completely. When I was at school, I was a very small boy, still am, with a very bad stammer. And if you told me at that time that I would be doing this, I would have told you to for God's sake, get a grip on yourself. But forgot what I was going to say now. When I left school, what I didn't mention there, my first job was a hoer in Loughgall. The Ministry of Agriculture had an experimental station there, and they did weed control experiments. So some of them were sprayed and some of them were hoed. So I was one of the hoers. I don't know what you said. I was great at it. I heard the foreman telling the boss I was the greatest wee hoer he had ever come across. One event happened in Loughgall that changed my life forever. It was I met my wife, and without her love and support, over the fact I'm still wearing it, without her love and support over the years, I would never have gained the confidence to go out and do something like this. Thanks very much, Tina. Without you, none of this would have happened. The Board of Armagh really has changed things for me. As I said, I am a non-smoker, non-drinker, and a great reader. So as far as I was concerned, an ideal night was the house to myself and a book. Whereas now I go out to places like Monaghan and Castle Blaney and Arboe and God knows where. I'm everywhere. I've been as far afield as Portrush and Portaferry and Kildare and God knows what. And I get recognised on the street by random people who ask me questions about Vindaloo. Mind you, half of them that recognise me think I'm Patsy O'Hagan. But I just tell them to piss off. And they go away saying, that O'Hagan's a right ignorant bastard, I'm not going to see him again. But what worried me was the guy who mistook me for Liam McNally. I don't know why the hell his eyesight was. But as I say, life has changed completely. I'm doing things like this, I'm really enjoying it. There is no greater fun standing up and making people laugh. And it's a great atmosphere here and a great night here, and I really love the whole thing. And I'll be coming here as long as I can get another idea, which is increasingly difficult after 14 years maybe. But as I say, things are totally different. A couple of CDs, I've done a book. I can't believe myself at all after all these years. As I say, if I hadn't got married to that wee blade down there, I don't think any of it would have happened at all. But I better cut this rubbish and say a wee poem here and get the hell out of the road. So, Shauna, this is my granddaughter, the only one who's still smaller than me. If I'm going to do a poem, I suppose it has to be farm feeding, which has appeared on more radio stations than I have ever heard of, and got me introduced all over the country, as I say, especially the Vindaloo bit of it. This was written after a night when the company I worked for had their Christmas dinner in a Chinese restaurant, and I thought this was hilarious. In a minute, I need the glasses. I'm still thinking I'm a young fella. No matter how well I know it, I still have the words in front of me. Because I know if I get stuck, I'll never get started again. You could say that I'm a country delight, and you wouldn't be far wrong. For I was reared on spuds and tay, and the tay was right and strong. There was porridge for your breakfast and soda bread for supper, and all the spuds you could eat with great big lumps of butter. Now I've reared a queen of youngsters, and half of them's down there. And they've all turned out right grand, but they take me out to places that I just can't understand. The land round on Sunday and lift me and the wife, and head off to eating houses like you've never seen in your life. We went to this Italian place, done up in golds and reds. Some big long name with letters that was mostly A's and Z's. The waiter hovered round me, muttering, "Pizza this and pizza that." So I pointed at someone and says, "I'll try a piece of that." Well, he landed with a plate of stuff the size of a manhole cover. It looked like a big pancake that somebody had booked over. Says, "Hey, is this recycled?" Because I would have swore it looked as if it had been ate at least the once before. I tried my best to cook it, but it stuck together like glue. There was cheese all down my trousers and tomatoes on my shoe. I didn't get the half of it, though I tried my very best. It was just like eating chewing gum from out of a string vest. Then one week we went Chinese, which caused a puzzled frown. The menu was wee pictures and was written up and down. I pointed at this thingy that looked like a Christmas tree, and I watched it with its leg cocked up like a wee dog having a pee. Well, the waiter brought a pile of stuff that looked like Finnish mud. There was someone floating in it. I don't think it was a spud. He says this here is bird's nest soup. It's really quite refined. Well, it tasted like the bird had flown, but had left a lot behind. Then we got big bowls of rice with lovely lumps of pork. But he gave us a couple of bits of sticks instead of a knife and fork. He was cooking of these chips and this and that, but sure, half of it landed down my shirt and the rest was on the mat. Then we tried the Mexicans with peppers, green and red, and stuff they called tortillas that looked a bit like powdered bread. Then tacos and burritos, enchiladas and the lot. And stuff that they called chili. But jeepers, it was hot. He had sauerkraut and schnitzel risottos and kebabs. And some of our Italian bread that looks like concrete slabs. We tried every bloody restaurant and every flaming dish. We even tried that sushi. But it tasted just like fish. When I was young, you couldn't have done a joke like that in Armagh. Then we tried an Irish place with traditional decor. They had a bicycle nailed to the ceiling and a pish pot at the door. I looked in vain for spuds and steak, but such food was lacking drama. It was honey roast medallions of corn-fed Peruvian llama. I asked about some sausages and maybe about a champ. The dirty look they gave me, and I thought it was a tramp. Then there was the French place called the a la carte. The waiters all looked down their nose as though he'd let a fart. They handed me a menu which was a crying shame. The only bit that I could read was the bloody printer's name. The writing was all fancy with long curly cues and stuff. But there was one word I recognised amongst all that foreign guff. L'escargot was a racehorse. They run in the Grand National. Though to leave him after all these years might seem a bit irrational. But God, when he was at himself, he was bloody hard to beat. He might be kind of stringy now, but like you know what's on their plate. and it seems that my deduction was somewhat off the rails. When the waiter brought me order, sure it was a plate of snails. Says I to them, that's bird food. I'll not beat about the bush. What the hell do you take me for? Do you think I'm a bloody thrush? Well, it turns out that they breed them on special farms, do you think? How the hell do you get a grip when you want to wring their neck? Now, it's far from me to pass remarks on all his aping habits, but one thing in their favour, like, they'd be easier caught than rabbits. The final straw was the Indian place, called the Star of Old Bengal. The waiter's head was bandaged up. He must have had a fall. We had this stuff called vindaloo. Looked a bit like yellow man. I don't know where the vin came from, but the loo, I understand. And I started out to eat it, and the sweat began to pour. It was running down the shock of my arse and dripping on the floor. I opened up my collar, I threw my coat away. I was steaming like a dunkel opened on a frosty day. We were all back in the motor, heading out for home. And I noticed things was not quite right in the nether region zone. My belt began to tighten and my face began to frown. I could feel things start to loosen a wee bit lower down. I was sitting there with buttocks clenched, shouting faster, faster, for the pressure gauge was in the red and coming near disaster. The car had not stopped rolling when I burst out of the back and hit the door like the drug squad raiding a house for crack. There was buttons flying right and left as it charged along the hall. If it had been a second slower, I would have pebble dashed the wall. The wife come banging on the door, roaring off her head. But I shouted, Jesus woman, it's coming out like thread. I've been sitting waiting for a break for over half an hour. I've got a hump across my back like a wee calf with a scour. You'll have to give me a bloody cork if you really need to go. But she says, if you used it on myself, I've already filled the bowl. So I swore an oath upon that bog as I sat in pain and rage to live on spuds and butter till I died of great old age. And if I should win the lottery, revenge is on my mind. I'll buy a place in India and pay them back in kind. I'll open an Armagh restaurant and feed them spuds and sodas and lots of gravy sausages to tighten up the buggers. Chronic constipation will follow in my train. Well, they were reared on Vindaloo, they might never dung again. Thank you very much. One word before I go. There's a woman walks into a chemist shop and the chemist is standing behind the counter, big man, and she says, do you know that Viagra? She says, is it any good? He says, oh yes, he says, yes, it's excellent, it works very well. She says, can you get it over the counter? He says, only if I take 2 of them.